All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar on the new cross-platform Canvas TV. Before we get started, a few quick notes for today's webinar. We will be recording this webinar and sharing it with all attendees afterwards. And we also encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation, and we'll be saving about 10 minutes or so at the end to answer them. Now, I know we have a lot of our clients on the line today, but also some new people. So for those of you who don't know who Canvas is, we are the easiest and most accurate insights platform to understand open-ended text. Our two hosts for today are Jared Feldman, founder and CEO of Canvas, and Ben Karen, lead analyst at Canvas. And with that, I will pass it to Jared to kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We're so excited to walk you through our new cross-platform Canvas TV. Canvas TV was one of the first things that we ever did as a company, and it was co-developed by a lot of the folks on this webinar. What we're going to go over today represents the most significant enhancements to Canvas TV since we first launched. So we're really excited to get your feedback. Now, before we jump in, a couple of context setting things, because the world is different. 2020 obviously felt and was experienced very differently by all of us, and especially the research industry. We were told to stay home and be safe, and this obviously affected all of our behavior. I know for me personally, I probably binged 5 new shows, start to finish, while sitting at home on my couch. This looked like a lot of us. Effectively, we looked for new ways to entertain ourselves, and we turned to television. According to Nielsen, the cumulative weekly time spent streaming video was around 81 billion minutes in Q2 of 2019, and that figure rose 75% to 143 billion minutes by Q2 of 2020. Just massive growth and consumption from us sitting at home during this period. So with the new demand for entertainment, as that took shape, people really turned to streaming. 2020 was already predicted to be, the year of streaming. However, the growth was expedited by more people looking for more entertainment. And thus started the plus wars. We obviously had platforms that we've known and loved for a while, like Netflix and like Hulu and Prime Video and now Disney Plus. And then some new players entered the game like Apple TV Plus and HBO Max and Peacock and Paramount, and you get the picture. To capitalize on this, the global OTT streaming market grew from $104 billion in revenue in 2019 to $160 billion in 2020 at an astounding 55% compound annual growth rate. This increase is really profound, especially because we as consumers, our lives changed completely. We were already beginning to binge on things, and now we had all of this free time on our hands where we couldn't go outside. And so there's the streaming part of things, which as a problem for us to solve at Canvas, we think about, all right, well, people are engaging with that content at all hours, whenever they want, 24/7. But we can't forget about linear as well, because effectively linear held its own in a lot of ways in 2020, where between the global pandemic, the election year, and more Americans being home with nothing to do, people largely turned to news, and when they came back, live sports in big ways. According to a report from Pew Research, 86% of US adults are familiar with the internet streaming services we just talked about, but 67% of them will not use them for news of any sort. So we know that monetarily networks, their ad buys for linear are super important still, and there's meaningful eyeballs and impressions to be had. And this was all accelerated with the return of live TV, obviously back as soon as it was clear to go. For example, when Major League Baseball came back, albeit it's a shortened season, lots of the projected deficit that networks were projecting effectively was erased in a lot of ways. So there's this interesting balance happening between really clearly needing to understand the streaming and binging behavior and people talking about it and engaging with it however they choose to, but also there's still being appointment-based television in the cases of news and sports and a few others. And all of that is happening at the same time and accelerated, we believe, by many years with COVID. All right, so why does this all matter? What 2020 taught us is that even more so than before, researchers have to have a grasp on what their audiences are saying about them, their programming, wherever it's happening. The major shift to online video streaming came with this added pressure on researchers to find new and creative ways to recommend that you grow and retain audience. At Canvas, we think about the researcher as the hero, where we're trying our best to lift up researchers in order to help empower them to make evidence-based recommendations and decisions. And we took a step back and realized that for Canvas TV, which is used by the majority of the industry, we weren't really doing enough to make it as easy to understand both linear and OTT, exactly how audiences were feeling and why, and ultimately how that connects to the changing market. So today we're going to double click on the Canvas TV area, but just as a way to step back for a moment, for many of you who haven't been introduced to Canvas yet, Canvas offers a number of things to our partners. The first is what we call Canvas MRX, which is effectively a bring your own data tool. You can feed any open-ended responses through Canvas MRX, and in seconds, it will tell you exactly how people feel, what they're talking about, and the major ideas and responses. This is primarily used for primary researchers who have quantitative surveys that have open ends, or if you're running qualitative discussion boards or communities, et cetera. Now, what we're going to focus today is on our second product called Canvas TV, which is a syndicated offering measuring how people feel and why they feel that way across everything on linear and OTT for many, many years. Now, Canvas TV has a companion product called Canvas Social, which is basically allowing you to track any social accounts or campaigns that are happening on social in one place. Our entire offering is available via dashboard, which Ben's going to demo for you in a moment, but it's also available programmatically via API for connections to other tools that you may be working with or internal business intelligence platforms. And finally, Ben is our lead analyst on our services team, which handles a number of insights requests, advanced analytics, and other things to make sure that our partners feel supported. All right, let's jump into why we're all here, which is Canvas TV. And we're going to focus today on how Canvas TV can be relied upon and trusted to be both your quantitative and qualitative partner. And there's a couple of new capabilities we've introduced that are live in the tool right now that we're going to go ahead and demo for you in a moment. But first, as we talked about needing to understand no matter where audiences were talking, how they felt and what was resonating, we've introduced a complete holistic view of all commentary across Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Secondly, we've introduced turnkey inline benchmarking capabilities. No longer jumping around to different pages or doing math in your head or in Excel. You literally can see a number and immediately see how it compares to any average you care about. Thirdly, all of our clients have clients. You guys are the ones having to inform the rest of the organization what's going on. And so to that end, we've introduced a number of new capabilities that allow you to report more quickly. And finally, Canvas is not just measuring emotion. We're also doing deep topical analysis to understand what are people talking about more broadly. And then from there, see how people feel about those things using our patented AI. Anyway, we're so excited about these 4 new capabilities, and all of them have been developed alongside many of you on this webinar, and we're really excited to show you how they look and work. So with that, Ben, I'd love to pass to you for a live demonstration.
Cool. Thank you, Jared. I'm giving a second just to pull it up here. Cool. And I imagine you can all see my screen now. Head nods. Perfect. Cool. So thanks, Jared. Yeah, so to start, let's focus on actually finding cross-platform TV within Canvas. So this is our homepage. Any seasoned Canvas veterans probably seen this before, and they're probably familiar with the search bar up here as well. So if we go into the universal search bar, and let's look for Saturday Night Live, we're going to see a few adjustments already. So you'll see all of Saturday Night Live pages summarized into a single row now, with the option to select either Twitter TV, Facebook TV, or YouTube TV. Or just by clicking on the television or the rest of the bar, you'll queue up the cross-platform TV view, which is what this webinar is really focused on. Cool. So now that I've clicked through, here is the cross-platform TV page. So from here, we'll actually have the ability to jump between Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube TV pages at the click of a button. And these are included, Facebook and YouTube TV, when they're actually associated with the specific programs. So if you don't have pages that are specifically associated with those programs, you're not going to see anything, obviously. You'll see up here, Saturday Night Live does have all three sources available. Before we go around to some of the other pages, let's focus on the new metrics that you're already seeing on the cross-platform TV page. So on the top right of the screen, you'll immediately notice that we are providing three aggregated metrics. So we have average reaction rate, total engagement, and total video views. And by hovering over the platforms, we can highlight just those platforms for those metrics. So on Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. So average reaction rate, the first metric here, is just average reaction rates from all three platforms that we're tracking, so Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Internally, we discuss this as kind of audience passion, and the way we calculate it, it's basically any comment or open end that contains one of Canvas's 42 core emotions divided by all commentary around the program. So next up, we have total engagement, which is measuring platform-specific engagement. So be it Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, that's where you're actually going to see these engagements. I'm going to actually go over these right now just to clarify what we're using internally for Canvas to define our metrics. Let's start here on this big one for YouTube. This is the likes. This is kind of on YouTube when you see the thumbs up, that's what that is. We also have dislikes, so that's thumbs down on YouTube. And then comments and replies. So comments and replies are just any public comment that we see from Facebook, and we're actually going to pull that in and use that internally for our analysis. Continuing on, we have likes from Facebook, which is really just any reaction type from Facebook that you can attain from thumbs up. So if you can do, I think, thumbs up, love, dislike, a bunch of different engagements there. We also have comments and replies from Facebook, and again, that's what we're going to be using in the analysis on Canvas. We have tweets, so this is just any tweets associated with the program, and retweets. And tweets and retweets, again, are going to be what we're using at Canvas here to define emotional reactions on any Canvas-specific metric. And last, we are also tracking total video views from Facebook and YouTube. That's the last metric you're seeing there up top. So next up, I want to highlight our date selector, which saw some massive improvements with cross-platform TV. Our date selector continues to function just as it did before, where you can either select by seasons, airings, or a customized date range to view your data by. But with cross-platform TV, this will now apply your selected date range to all pages being tracked. So if I want to see the previous week's performance of Saturday Night Live, I can select February, let's say 23rd to March 1st. And this will now apply that date range across the board. And we'll see the entire page just changed a little bit. And once I apply this, I can jump directly to my Twitter TV, Facebook TV, or YouTube TV pages, and that date range is just going to be applied. No need to reset it every time you're on a new page. It's just going to be ready for you when you get there. And again, for some seasoned Canvas veterans here, this page has one other thing that's brand new, and that's going to be our inline benchmarks. So by hovering over these inline benchmarks, we can actually see what Saturday Night Live is being compared to here. And we can see that its comedy series aired from February 23rd to March 1st. And if we want to adjust these benchmarks, we can either click here on the Customize Inline Benchmarks button, or go up to the selector up here where it says Metrics and Benchmarks. Click in, and go to inline benchmarks. You can obviously see here we have a ton of options. We can compare based on specific programs if we want to. We can also compare based on different types of airings, different genres, other networks, network types, that's broadcast, cable, so on, or day part. So if you want to compare to other primetime programming or late night programming, you can also compare it that way. For the sake of this demo, I'm just going to plug in, let's say, ABC, Fox, and NBC. So this is now going to be comparing this selection of Saturday Night Live to any comedy series on ABC, Fox, or NBC. And let's just apply this. And now we'll see that those inline benchmarks slightly changed. And you'll also see that we have these emotional reactions here: love, crazy, excited, hate, and beautiful. Since we're comparing comedy series, I think it makes sense to go into our metric selector here. Let's remove beautiful and put in funny. What you'll notice is this page is entirely customizable, so you can set it up exactly how you want to see it. We can see, for example, here, Saturday Night Live on aggregate was 54.3% higher in the funny emotional reaction category compared to comedy series on ABC, Fox, or NBC. And if you're like me and you just want to see all the emotional reactions, you also have an awesome export feature here up top. We can just export with all metrics, and this will just give you a nice Excel readout, again, with all of our 42 core emotions applied on the side. Cool. So now that we have a clear understanding about what's new here in the cross-platform TV view, I want to start to dive in and start to drive some insights from the available data. So again, our date range is set to February 23rd to March 1st, and let's jump over to Twitter TV now. You'll notice that that date range, just as I said before, is applied again, even though we switch pages, which is awesome. And if we go back into the date selector here on our Twitter TV page, we can select specific episodes. This is a very common use case. So we can either go by latest season or latest airing, or select custom date ranges here from our calendar. I'm going to go to most recent seasons, choose season 46, and let's go into this first episode here, Nick Jonas, and apply. And so once the page reloads, we'll now be viewing data at the airing level, and we'll be able to see when emotional reactions spiked throughout the episode, what emotions were most prevalent in the episode, and a newer feature, which I'll highlight in a bit here, is what our audience was specifically talking about the night of the airing through our topics tree map. So let's start at the timeline here, and where you'll see kind of total tweets in the grayed out area, and then in the darker blue, you'll see emotional reaction, along with specific moments represented by these orange dots. And these are statistically significant shifts in emotional reactions around the episode. So if we just look at this first moment here, we can see excited spiked about Nick Jonas. So early on in the episode, people were just getting really excited to see him. And I'm just gonna make a quick note here. I am in Chicago, so if you're not on Central Time, your timeline might look a little different than mine. I'm usually on the East Coast, so if you're on the East Coast, it'd be 11:30 for the start time. And obviously apply that where you may be in the world. So continuing down, and we can start to get a clear picture of emotional reactions throughout this episode as well from Canvas's famous emotions tree map. So again, if current client, you've definitely seen this before. And emotions are overwhelmingly positive for the episode. And when we click on a specific emotion, like for example, let's choose crazy here, we can get an idea of what specifically people found crazy about this episode. So we can look at the emotional reactions verbatims down here to see exactly what people are saying, or we can jump over to our topics tree map by clicking here. And now we get topical analysis of what people specifically loved about the episode. Nick Jonas is obviously #1. We also see Maya Rudolph mentioned here as a big driver of crazy emotional reactions. And we're actually going to get into that in a bit. So now at this point, let's say you're done with your analysis on Twitter and you want to jump onto the next platform that we're tracking, and that's Facebook. Again, you're going to see our date range remains consistent from that overview page still. It's still February 23rd to March 1st. And obviously, this is a little bit of a different view because we're now looking at that page that's associated with Saturday Night Live rather than general commentary around Saturday Night Live on Twitter. So if we scroll down, we can actually see which posts are driving specific emotional reactions. So for the sake of the demo, let's look at love here, and then click on related posts. So this is going to show us which of our posts drove the highest amount of love. I'll let that load up for a second here. There we go. Cool. So we can see that we have this, which is a specific video associated with the show that launched that week. But let's say I'm more interested in the marketing content, right? And we can see this post, "We'll see you in March." So let's just filter our whole page on this exact post and get an idea of what is driving this positive emotional reaction here. We'll click down on this. And now we'll see our entire page. We see it's filtered by this single post, and we can see "We'll see you in March," and there's an image here. So it's an announcement that Maya Rudolph is going to be hosting the show on March 27th with musical guest Jack Harlow. And if we go back to our topics tree map, we can reselect love here and get an idea of what specifically they loved about this announcement. So we selected love on our emotions. We can see Maya Rudolph is obviously a big driver, but we can also see that there's a lot of conversation around Kamala Harris. It looks like people are getting really excited to see Maya Rudolph portray Kamala Harris, which she's done pretty consistently if anyone is keeping up with Saturday Night Live as of late. Cool. So we've looked at some marketing content on Facebook now, and I actually want to jump over to YouTube. The last of our pages tracked through cross-platform TV. And again, we're going to see that date range remain the same. So we're looking at the exact same time range. Our analysis is going to remain consistent regardless of what platform we're on. And what's really powerful about Saturday Night Live's distribution strategy is that they're actually posting their sketches as individual posts on their YouTube page following the airing. And because of this, we can actually use Saturday Night Live's YouTube page to rank their sketches based on emotions. So again, let's keep on that love trend here. We'll look at this love emotional reaction. Wait for that to load. And let's go to related videos once again. We can quickly find out, what people found most funny, which sketches they just couldn't get over. They just loved them so much. We can see this vaccine game show cold open was actually the highest driver of love emotional reaction, followed by Nick Jonas's musical performance, it looks like. Okay. So, we've been going through all our cross-platform TV pages, and I think the one common thread between all of them is likely our tree maps. And that's not on accident. I love our tree maps, and we definitely heard that our clients love them as well. But until recently, you weren't able to export our tree maps directly into any other format other than PNG. So along with our upgrades to cross-platform TV, we've also added a new export option across all of our products. And it's a tree maps to PowerPoint export. So with this, I'm going to jump back into Twitter TV here. It should still be filtered on the same date range. Yes, it is. And then I'm going to go to export. And from export, we can go tree maps to PowerPoint. And I've already queued it up here, so I'm just going to pull it up. And here's what that export's going to look like. So we can see that we have a topics tree map, and we have volume of certain topics, along with an emotions tree map, along with volume of specific emotions. And what's really great about these exports is that they're totally customizable. I know sometimes I'm doing analysis and I don't want to necessarily include, a specific emotion that may have spiked for one reason or another. So all you have to do to edit is go in, right click, and hit edit data. And from here, we're going to be prompted with an Excel file where we can quickly change, remove, or recalculate this volume. So for example, we can see that n equals 20,208. So if we want to recategorize these as percentages, we can just do equals cell divided by 2,208. And let's apply this across the board. I'm just going to quickly throw this into the viewed column here, and then reformat this as a percentage. And we're good, just like that. We've now rebuilt this PowerPoint to be exactly the way we want it. It's in percentages rather than volume. But maybe you don't like the tree map look, and if you want to change that again, we can just jump into chart design, change chart type. I like the sunburst personally. So we can quickly change to sunburst, or if you wanted something a little bit more traditional, just a column chart. And just like that, you have all your data summarized and ready to go into your presentation with just a click of a button. And as I mentioned, these exports aren't specific to our TV products. You're actually going to see this across the board. So it's not just on TV or social, but even on our MRX platform. So I've actually queued up a quick PowerPoint or a quick survey here. And we can see on our MRX platform, we actually have an added tree map. So we have emotions, which we just saw. We have topics, which again are just topical analysis of open-ended text that you brought. And codes, which are both auto-coded or customized based on your preferences. So when we do an export from here, again, just export tree maps to PowerPoint. I'm going to pull it up. This is what it looks like. So we have our third tree map included. We have nets and codes, topics, and emotions. With that, I'm going to send it back to Jared to talk about some of our next big advancements coming in the next few weeks. Cool. Yeah, Jared, if you want to take back over.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I'm going to go ahead and share back to the deck, which you should see here. So Ben covered a lot, but effectively at a high level, we showed how we're now giving you a complete holistic view of commentary across Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, that there's inline benchmarking capability that immediately shows you exactly how that number compares to whatever your competitive set is, that you can export automatically to PowerPoint with complete control, no like images in a PowerPoint, like literally you can change the graph, change the colors, do whatever you'd like to the data. And also that you can rely on Canvas not just for emotion analysis, but general conversation analysis. What are people talking about and how they feel from there? Now, one of the areas that we've learned is super critical is around benchmarking, and there's more that we can do there. And so there's two big things coming here just in the next couple of weeks that we're really excited about, and has been based on the feedback from a lot of the folks on this webinar. The first is because you can now benchmark across multiple sources, we're going to give you the control to decide which sources you'd like to include in your benchmarks. So if you want to just look at how Twitter compares with Twitter, or maybe you want to look at the aggregate of Twitter and Facebook against other programs with Twitter and Facebook, or Twitter and YouTube, or Facebook and YouTube, any combination of the sources that we have, you're going to have granular control to benchmark against everything else. That's the first thing. The second thing is this ability to benchmark against any time period. And this becomes really key for what we call asynchronous benchmarking. And let me give you an example. So your OTT program premieres over the weekend, and you're trying to study opening weekend performance. What you would want to then do is compare it potentially to all other opening weekends that have happened in the last year. Those obviously happened at different moments. So because Canvas knows the drop date of every OTT program, we have predefined buckets of opening weekend or first 7 days or first month. You're going to be able to just say, go ahead and compare this OTT drama, for example, the opening weekend, to other OTT dramas that have taken place in the last year. And especially for those that are trying to ramp up their insights around OTT or are newer to investing in original content, having a clear sense of how performance compares for your program compared to what's typical becomes really, really powerful. So you'll be able to benchmark against any time period right there in line. And this is a massive enhancement that hopefully will feel very simple to use in the way in which Ben showed you. So immediately contextualize any number that you have there. All right, that's a lot of content. We covered quite a bit, but I'm really excited to get this into everyone's hands. With that, I want to make sure that we have time for some Q&A. So Allison?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jared and Ben. Really insightful information, really cool to see the product live. I'm going to open up for Q&A now. We have a couple questions that have come through, but first I just want to mention that for any of our current clients that are joining us today and interested in learning more about cross-platform TV, please contact your account director and they would be more than happy to give you a complete demo. And for anyone who's not a current Canvas client, Follow that link on the screen and fill out the form, and someone from our team will be in contact with you to be able to give you an even more complete demo than what you saw today on the product or any of our products that you might be interested in. So with that, we have a couple questions. You can still throw a few more in the Q&A chat if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So the first question for you, Ben, is what is the difference in a tweet or comment that is emotional versus non-emotional?
Yeah, great question. So this is kind of at the core of what we are at Canvs. So we're measuring emotional reactions first. And as you probably saw on the demo screen, on every slide, basically, we are tracking both emotional reactions and just regular tweets. So the difference, I'll just give a quick example, would be, I can't wait for this upcoming episode of SNL. That would be maybe excited or love, versus someone just saying, is anyone else watching SNL right now? In that case, they're just posing a question. They're not really showing any emotion behind it. So that's how we kind of determine emotional reactions versus just general non-emotional reactions or just plain commentary.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. One question for you, Jared, that someone asked is this update automatically going to be included for all of Canvs TV customers?
Absolutely. So this is a free enhancement. The team has been working tirelessly, listening to your feedback. This is based, all of the stuff that we've done has come directly from our clients. And so we thought it was only fair that all clients get to experience it at no additional cost. So everything we just talked about, sans the stuff that's coming in a couple of weeks that we outlined, is all available in your dashboard today.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question for you, Ben. How does Canvs align the Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube pages?
Yeah, great question. As that's kind of at the core of what we're doing on cross-platform TV. So essentially, if you have a Facebook page or a YouTube page that is specific to the show, and that's a key point, it has to be specific to the show, we will automatically start tracking that alongside your Twitter TV data that should be included for every program. That being said, if you ever catch, hey, we have a Facebook page specific for the show or a YouTube page that's specific for the show, but I'm not seeing it in my cross-platform view, you can just hit up our chat line, which is awesome. We have great people working on that end, and they'll work quickly to make sure your pages are tracked for the cross-platform TV view.
Perfect. And the last question that we have time for here, and this one's for you, Jared. What is a driver in the terms of Canvs TV and why is it important?
Yeah, absolutely. So fundamentally, we establish a simple, trusted measure of how people feel. And then the next reasonable question is, why do they feel that way? And this becomes increasingly important for television when if people are expressing hate, but it's about a character that you're supposed to hate, well, then that's great engagement and very positive. And so drivers are effectively people or brands that the system is identifying, being talked about quite a bit, and it's fully structured. So we know that Allison Butler is an actress and she's in this program, and these are the ways in which that they refer to her. And so we're doing the work algorithmically to combine what we've learned from Gracenote and places like Google Knowledge and Wikipedia with what we can see in the data to quantify exactly how much conversation or how much emotion Allison Butler in this example drove. And then I'll say too that we're really, really quick at responding to requests of, hey, the driver didn't include her very special nickname that the fans have made for her. Can you also include that? And we do our best to have the drivers be as complete as possible. But it's happening every single day across every program, and it allows you to understand what of my emotional response is character-driven or talent-driven or brand-driven, as an example.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That's all the time that we have today. A big thank you to Jared and Ben for walking us through these updates. We're really excited for you guys to all take a test drive of this. So again, feel free to reach out to us for more information. And otherwise, like I said, we'll be sharing this recording following the webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.